Our dinosaur of the day is Anzu Wylie, which is named after a bird-like demon in Mesopotamian mythology. And the Wylie part of the name comes from a boy named Wylie, who was a dinosaur enthusiast and grandson of a Carnegie Museum of Pittsburgh trustee. So a whole bunch of paleontologists studied Anzu. That includes Dr. Matthew Lamanna from the Carnegie Museum of Natural History, and Dr. Hans-Dieter Sues and Dr. Tyler Lyson from the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of Natural History, as well as Dr. Emma Schachner from the University of Utah. So 3 different Anzu skeletons have been found, and Dr. Tyler Lyson first found the bones of the 3rd skeleton when he was a teenager visiting his uncle's ranch in North Dakota. There are, again, 3 skeletons, but these are partial skeletons found in both North and South Dakota in the Hell Creek Formation, which was formed at the end of the Cretaceous period, about 2 million years before non-avian dinosaurs went extinct. Lyson, when he found the bones in 2009, said that they were just sticking out of the ground. So even though the bones were discovered a few years ago, the research was published in the Public Library of Science 1 journal in 2014.
Dr. Lamanna said, quote, "Anzu is far and away the most complete Caenagnathed that has ever been discovered. After nearly a century of searching, we paleontologists finally have the fossils to show what these creatures looked like from virtually head to toe. And in almost every way, they're even weirder than we imagined," end quote. So Anzu lived in the Hell Creek Formation, which is known for Tyrannosaurus rex and Triceratops fossils, which at the time was a wet floodplain. So Anzu has been described as the chicken from hell because it looks strange and it was found in the Hell Creek Formation. And Anzu, as Sabrina mentioned, is a bird-like demon from Mesopotamian mythology. So the Hell Creek Formation gave them inspiration to name it after a hellish demon. And it had a bony crest on the top of its head as well as a long tail. Because of that, it's considered to be very bizarre. And it has a big beak and a sliding jaw joint that could have been used to eat plants as well as meat. Overall, Anzu was about the size of a small car, had claws and feathers on the upper arms, and was also described as a cross between an emu and a modern reptile. It was about 11 feet long, 5 feet tall at the hip, and weighed between 440 and 660 pounds. It had a toothless beak, and the crest on its head was very similar to a cassowary. If you haven't looked up a cassowary, you should really check it out. It's a crazy-looking, super aggressive bird that's down in Australia.
Anzu is part of the Caenagnathids family, which are a group of theropods in the Oviraptorosauria group. Anzu looked like a big flightless bird with a long, slender neck and hind legs, again looking like a cassowary or an ostrich, which, as Garrett mentioned, a lot of dinosaurs these days being compared to looking like ostriches. Close relatives of Anzu have been found to have feathers, so Anzu probably also had feathers, but it also had large sharp claws and a long tail. So there's a bit of a history to the Caenagnathids group. Because of Anzu, paleontologists now know for sure that Anzu, Caenagnathids, and Chirostenotis are in their own group in Oviraptorosauria, and that Gigantoraptor, which is the largest oviraptorosaur known, weighing 1.5 tons, also belongs to the Caenagnathidae group. Some in this group are small and the size of a turkey, but they are a very diverse group. Until Anzu, Caenagnathids were the least understood oviraptorosaurs because it was only known from very incomplete fossils, so scientists had no idea what they looked like. So even though Anzu had such a strange-looking head, what's interesting is that its body was very similar to Velociraptor, even though Velociraptor lived a few million years earlier.
Based on its skeleton, we believe that Anzu was an omnivore and ate vegetation, small animals, as well as probably eggs.
So oviraptors are an interesting group because they were kind of wrongly named for stealing eggs, so it's interesting, Anzu, if it actually ate eggs. It's part of the Oviraptorosaurus group.
Based on fossil remains, it appears that Anzu got a lot of injuries throughout its life. 2 of the 3 Anzu specimens that have been found so far had pretty serious injuries. One had a broken and healed rib, and the other had an arthritic toe bone, which was caused by a fracture where a tendon ripped off a piece of the bone. It's unclear whether Anzu fought within the species or if they were fighting larger predators like T-rex.
So again, Anzu is classified in multiple groups. There's the Caenagnathids, and there's the larger group Oviraptorsauria. So Anzu is the first of its kind in the group Oviraptorsauria, which is found mostly in Central and East Asia, to show that this group also lived in North America. They probably migrated across the land bridge. It's also the largest oviraptorosaur found in North America so far, though not the largest oviraptorosaur ever. Again, Gigantoraptorosaur, which was discovered in Mongolia in 2005, was much larger at 1.5 tons and 24 feet long.
The most complete skeleton of Anzu was 80% complete, and according to Dr. Seuss and his team, Anzu proves that dinosaurs were still evolving when they suffered the mass extinction event, which helps prove that it was an asteroid that killed the dinosaurs and not climate change or another catastrophe.
So just going back to the Hell Creek Formation, even though it's been well excavated, scientists think that there's a lot more species that can be found there. For example, in December 2014, there was a new raptor that was found in Hell Creek, and there's still probably a lot of dinosaurs to find in Central Asia. So the 3 Anzu skeletons are currently housed in the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh.
But I don't think they're currently on display, so you probably can't see them right now, unfortunately.
So just to get into a little bit more about the Caenagnathids group and Oviraptorosaurus group, the name Oviraptorosaur comes from the first skeleton that was found in 1924, and it was on top of a dinosaur egg nest. Scientists thought that it was stealing the eggs, but in the 90s, they found a baby Oviraptoroid egg inside a nest, which showed that Oviraptorosaur was actually just a good parent protecting its eggs and not a thief.
There are more than a dozen known Oviraptorid species. Caenagnathids, Oviraptorids, and other species from China are closely related, so paleontologists started grouping them together in a theropod group, Oviraptorsauria. Having oviraptorosaurs in Asia and North America makes sense because, as Sabrina mentioned earlier, they were connected at the time of dinosaurs and there was a lot of migration between the 2 points. The name Caenagnathed means recent jaws. The first Caenagnathids found were thought to be close relatives of birds like ostriches because they had similar lower jaws. Now scientists are thinking that this similarity just evolved in convergent evolution rather than being a descendant. The Caenagnathed family, along with the family Oviraptoridae, is part of the superfamily Caenagnathoidea. Charles Whitney Gilmore found the first Caenagnathidae fossils in 1914, which were the hands of Chirostenotus in Alberta, Canada. In 1940, a new species called Caenagnathes cullinsi was found and put in the Caenagnathes group because of its similar lower jaw. And the most primitive Caenagnathed is Caenagnathasia marinsoni, which was found in Uzbekistan.
So again, Caenagnathids and Oviraptorids are part of the same Oviraptorsauria group, but Caenagnathids, even though they're similar to Oviraptoridae, they have distinct jaws. They're long and shallow and not as powerful of a bite. And their lower jaws had ridges and shelf-like structures, which was a crushing surface. They were also hollow and air-filled as part of an air sac system. And Caenagnathids are also lighter than Oviraptorids, with slender arms and long legs. They also had specialized beaks, long necks, and short tails with feathers. And some Caenagnathids had short, deep beaks, while others had shovel-shaped beaks. Another difference between Caenagnathids and Oviraptorids is that Caenagnathids tended to live in humid floodplains, while Oviraptorids lived in arid areas. There are about 12 named Caenagnathed species, but they may not all be valid. Some of them come from fragments of skeletons.